Yeah. Icy cold, it is so icy cold. Yeah. Mixing the water with cheese is making the money get mold. Yeah. Trying to be like gang, you better go get it involved. Yeah.
Deep right
84s on lanes, how about you think it is folks? We did it, we said it, we spoke. Yeah. We put it out, thought it was smoke. Just 504. This is at home, right down the street from Alamo. Yeah. Parked the days in, ain't taking no days in. Yeah. Don't need a vacation, I need a replacement. Busting the lights out soon as we came in. What are they talking about? What is retaining? Yeah. Need me a therapist to ask if I'm aging. Is me, do you feel caved in? All of my demons invading. I live here and no hesitating. They biting the cadence. Go out their way, it's okay. Just like the jokes in the basement. I gotta get with my face in it. Yeah. Icy cold, it is so icy cold. Yeah.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Monday night here on the All About the Birds Network. Welcome to an all-new edition of Chips and Dish. We do this every single Monday night. Unfortunately, there is no Philadelphia Phillies game on tonight. Jeff, I'll let you know that every time a Philadelphia sports team plays on a Monday night and I'm live, they win. My record of winning streak is pretty impressive. I'm
kind of glad though, because you know what, we don't want to jinx anything here, Chip. You know what I mean? We don't want to jinx anything. I know you're a good luck charm, but you know, let's enjoy this for what it is. I know we're going to get into it a little bit more, but man, let's just sit back, let's enjoy, and we'll take. We're
enjoying.
Yes,
because last week it was like real nitty gritty in the ninth inning, and I was like, all right, here's all the stuff. I'm closing it down. I want to get off the air before anything happens. And then they won as like we were playing the outro video. I was like, should I go back live and be like, ha, and then cut it? And
That's great.
Didn't. But my record is still intact. Adam checking in. What's up, Adam? Go Phillies. New intro is fire. Shout out to Johnny. Shout out to Johnny for the background. There will be a new Manscaped commercial played at the end of all this. That's shout out to me. But I'm very excited tonight. I have Jeff Warren from the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast. What's going on, buddy?
Man, it is good to see you. It is good to hear your voice, of course. And thanks for everybody for joining tonight. And dude, I got done recording our podcast today on our Patreon platform where I had Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports on. We were given a grades and report card for where the Philadelphia sports teams, all four major Philly sports teams are at, aside from the Union. And
Sure.
There, believe it or not, a few months ago, I wasn't feeling too good about where the direction and trajectory was going within the four major Philly sports teams in this city. But right now, here at the beginning of August, Chip, I'm not feeling all that terrible right now. I'm not feeling terrible. I'm really not. I guess I know you want to talk about the Philadelphia Phillies and the fact that we have a potential Cy Young Award winner, an NL Cy Young Award winner potentially on this team, as well as a potential MVP as well. And I wouldn't have thought that 2 months ago.
I wouldn't have thought that 2 weeks ago. Yeah, like, remember, coming out of the trade deadline, we were looking at this team going, why are we not selling?
Right.
Why are we not getting rid of it? And then all of a sudden, this team's like, you know what? Let's go full Philadelphia. Let's get the fans back invested.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens in September and October.
Chip, more people were at the ballpark Sunday afternoon than in any point in recent memory as this team just completed that sweep of the Mets. And you're watching the game and fans were just living and dying with every pitch. I mean, it's a change from what we have seen and just a different aspect of this 2021 Phillies team, who are currently favored anywhere from what I understand from, plus 110 to minus 140 to win the NL East, according to Pickwise. So listen, I don't think that, and I'm gonna say this for anybody out there who may be listening to the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast show on occasion or every week. Last week I said, don't trust this team. Don't trust them. We can't trust them because we've seen this before. How many times have we seen this before? Where this team
so
has let us down. But now I'm
exhausted.
psyched.
I am. I'm very excited. So listen, and Matt's saying, the crowd with the final out Saturday and Sunday was unreal. Mike Devlin, former intern of the All About the Birds Network, former intern. He's done the internship. Mike, the intern, said fans should have never slept on the team. So, I mean, all of a sudden he's done his internship. He's got big britches.
Mike, in all seriousness, though, I mean, how many times have we seen the Philadelphia Phillies? I'm not just talking about here in 2021. I'm talking about 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017. Constantly, Chip, we see year after year, this team will get our hopes up. They take that word hope and they hold it close to our heart. We hold it close to our heart, right?
We have a song. Our song is called High Hopes.
Yes, exactly. And we are let down year after year after year. It is called classical conditioning. Read about Pavlov. It's classical conditioning.
We're ringing the bell waiting for the food drop.
Exactly. So that's why my trepidation about whether or not we can trust this team is persistent for me. I love what I'm seeing. Absolutely. Eight wins in a row. Are you kidding me? But I don't know if I 100% trust it at this point because I could see this thing flipping back right at the drop of a hat.
Well, all right. So listen, we got into it. I'm going to pay the bills real quick, and then we're going to jump right into it. So
do it, my man.
First off, before I do anything and any of the bill stuff, we did go on 15 minutes later than usual, and there's a reason why. So I got to give a shout out because I know the Red Team Trailblazers for Camp America are watching right now. Shout out to the Trailblazers, Red Team. But we were having dance practice, so that's why I had to come on a couple minutes late. So shout out to the Red Team Trailblazers. Challenge accepted. They said I wouldn't do it, but I did it. Here's the rest of the bills. Oddsjam.com. Use their arbitrage calculator to not lose money. Don't forget Statement Games, a fun free twist on fantasy sports. We have fantasy football coming back up, so you want to make sure you're finding out what you need to from Statement Games. AATbirds.com/shop. Get all the new designs. We got a whole new Eagle season about to pop off, so lots of new designs coming their way. I think I got Johnny to put a fullback T-shirt into the shop because I am excited that Jack Stoll is playing a little fullback. So the fullback is fully back up in Philadelphia. 99jersey.com. Partner with AAT Birds. Use the code AATBirds20 for 20% off discount at checkout. And manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. For AAT Birds, use the code AAT Birds for 20% off and free shipping at checkout. Okay, lots of that stuff done. Phillies are on an absolute tear. Jeff Warren.
Yeah.
From the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast. Can they maintain it?
I think they can when you look at the schedule.
Okay.
I think they can when you look at the schedule. Again, I don't want my hopes to be completely dashed here, but the most difficult team they're going to be facing is, of course, who they're going to be starting out against tomorrow, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Can they take? Can they take a couple? I actually think it's possible based on the spark that this team has and how they're actually playing with some fight. I think that it's interesting that we look at this Phillies team in terms of where you mentioned it earlier, where they were even 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, two weeks ago. This has been 1 week.
Yes.
Bare Naked Ladies wrote a song about this team. It's been 1 week.
And again, that's why I have the trust issues with this team.
Right.
Listen, I'm loving it. I am absolutely loving it. I love that Bryce Harper is a perennial front runner for MVP, like we had mentioned earlier. But do I think this team can actually do it realistically, potentially win the NL East? I do think it's possible because baseball teams need sparks. And I think this is the first time, Chip, we really are seeing that monumental spending that the Phillies did do with Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, and Zach Wheeler, and just making sure it's all coming together at the right time. I mean, that's what this is too. The timing of it is unbelievable.
And it's such a long season. I mean, baseball is 162 games.
Yeah.
Baseball is 162 games. So the Phillies were mediocre. They were mediocre. And then all of a sudden, and Adam says it right here, all of a sudden, our MVP candidate, and I know Jason Voorhees, he's watching, and he's been on a tear about Bryce Harper, and he's had to, eat his words about it because he's finally playing like the guy that we're paying him to be.
Yes.
He was mediocre for the first half of the season. There's no denying that.
Yeah.
But now he's not. And you can see that the fire this team is starting to play with, and it's infectious. Right. It's infectious for the fans, for the whole team. You see Rhys Hoskins exploding out of the dugout after every home run. It's how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You use the word infectious. The word infectious reminds me of that spark that certain teams, whatever sport it is, doesn't matter if it's baseball, football, hockey, basketball, soccer, whatever, that spark that needs to happen for a team to make a run. And you look at Bryce Harper and in his rankings among NL hitters since the All-Star break, Chip, his batting average is 5th at 370. On base percentage, he's 1st at 516. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at all. When you're first in your on-base percentage, it means a lot, especially with this Phillies organization when they do have, listen, we've seen them having a tough time with runners in scoring position all season. He's 2nd in slugging at 740, and he's tied for 2nd with 21 walks as well since the All-Star break. And again, like, you need that spark. And that's what Bryce Harper's supposed to be. That's what that contract is about.
That's what it was about.
Exactly. It's not necessarily about he has to do this consistently through an entire baseball season. Do we want that? Do we hope that's going to happen? Of course. Sure. But this is the timing aspect that's so important for this team to be able to come together. And he's the linchpin for it. And I really think that he could become the MVP. I really do.
Right. So up until the last week and a half, Bryce Harper was not the MVP.
Right.
He wasn't. 19 home runs, that doesn't do anything. Most of them solo shots. He wasn't doing anything.
Right. I mean, he's tied for the league. He's tied for 17th in the league with 20 homers. So it's not that's not his bread and butter this season.
No, it's not. But like you said, it's providing the spark. He is the most valuable player on a team that is getting hot and making a playoff push. So the question is, can they maintain it? You look at the rest of the NL East. We went up against the Mets this weekend for lead in the NL East, and we said, let's win 2.
Right.
Let's win 2.
Yeah.
Going in and sweeping the Mets is big, right? You look at the other teams. The Marlins, they're done. They're done. The Nationals had an absolute fire sale.
Yeah.
So they're done. The Marlins are a AAA team at best. They are not going to win the NL East.
It really is amazing how that particular team, it just absolutely doesn't develop at all. It's astonishing how they have not been able to put together. Listen, and I know it's management, and listen, we have all of us here have been critical of the Phillies front office management for some time. I know I certainly have, and I know there's individuals listening to your show that have as well. But there has to be a certain point where you have to change and alter course of direction, and the Marlins certainly have not done that.
It boggles the mind, because we say it all the time with the Eagles that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. The Marlins and the Nationals. Look, the Nationals are only 9 games out of first place, and they had a fire sale. They got rid of Max Scherzer, who was an ace in this league. They got rid of everybody except Juan Soto, who's sitting there going, "What the hell?"
Right. Right. Think about where we were at the beginning of the season, though, Chip. If you think about where we were, there were a lot of it. What is happening now in the NL East is essentially what a lot of people predicted. There was just a lot of uncertainty. Nobody thought that the Braves were going to actually run away with it completely. The Mets were certainly going to be in contention. Even people were talking about how the Nationals were going to be potential contenders as well. And all these top 4 teams have been really there together during the course of this season. It really is shaping up how we all kind of thought it was going to.
Right. So, and again, the Mets, look, the Mets were, and I use this term lightly, but the cream of the crop in the NL East, because you had DeGrom, who is an absolute stud. You bring over Lindor. You have still Alonso. Like, you have a really good team. DeGrom going out right now could cost this team the playoffs. It could cost him the Cy Young.
Yeah. Absolutely. Listen, with him sidelined with his injuries, Wheeler and his 10-6 record have just continued to, stifle NL lineups. So it's really amazing to see how the timing of certain things works out. We see it in the NFL all the time with injuries. Jake DeGrom, is he going to come back next year and be the same dominant force that he has been in the past? Probably. He probably will, but this is now this time of year. Things happen in sports that you cannot predict, that you cannot foresee happening, and it's good teams, and I hesitate to say, like the Phillies here, who are taking advantage of the moment.
At the right time. The right time. And, the Braves right now, they're in second place. But again, the injury bug has hit them hard. They don't really have a ton of dominant players. Like, this division is the Phillies to win. The Cy Young is Wheeler's to win because, and I have said this on my show, I fought with Jason Voorhees about it. I'll say it again. Aaron Nola is not the ace of the Philadelphia Phillies.
Certainly isn't this year.
He's not an ace. I look at an ace as a guy that goes out and dominates.
Yeah. But think about this though, Chip. Think about what is happening with this Phillies pitching rotation here. 2 off seasons ago, the Mets had every opportunity to re-sign Wheeler to a high-priced deal. They didn't see his potential as a future NL Cy Young candidate. But
they trashed him. They trashed him for the deal that he signed with us.
Yes, absolutely. And look, it was a shortened season last year in 2020, of course, but he pitched to a tune of 2.92 was his ERA in his first year in Philadelphia. And he's proven that it's not a fluke. It's not a fluke at all. He's arguably now, again, the NL Cy Young favorite. And it's so bittersweet given that he came over from the Mets and they bungled it.
So I look at it as stepping up at big times, right? Aaron Nola, he'll come out and he'll put out a great start, but with Aaron Nola that if he gives you a great start within his next 2, he is going to be pulled by the 3rd or 4th inning.
Right.
It is his track record. He is consistently inconsistent.
It's like clockwork.
That is what Aaron Nola is.
Yeah, it's like clockwork. Listen, I was at the Father's Day game where he pitched magnificently, and then we see what happens after that. What you said, Chip, is absolutely correct. He is a very, very, very good pitcher in Major League Baseball, but him having that ace designation, we're seeing that not necessarily taking shape this year. We've seen brilliant performances from him, but we've also seen some stinkers too, and that right there means that from a mental standpoint, he just needs to get a little bit stronger if he's able to. And you know what? If he's not, then maybe he is a middle of the rotation type of guy moving forward. The Phillies are going to have to look at that, this coming off season for sure.
So part of my thing, and again, I had Jason on in the early part of the season, and we had this whole debate, and my argument is that every team has a number 1 pitcher. Not every team has an ace. There are maybe 5 aces in Major League Baseball at a time. You have got to stop giving participation trophies to every single player. Not every team has an ace. Aaron Nola is not an ace. Wheeler is an ace, but he has become an ace. But he's still not a Major League Baseball. There's 5 pitchers better than Wheeler. Maybe not right now.
Right.
But there are at least 5 pitchers better than Zach Wheeler in Major League Baseball.
I think so. I think what we as sports fans tend to do a lot, Chip, is we tend to just look at things in black and white all the time. Okay, it's either this way or it's that way. And it's just, life doesn't work like that. And as a result, sports don't work like that.
Correct.
You can't say somebody is an ace if they're not an ace. Can they be a really, really, really good pitcher? Absolutely.
Yes, they can. And that's okay.
It's perfectly fine. It is. It's perfectly fine. There's a lot of gray in life, people. A lot of gray in life. It doesn't have to be black and white all the time.
I think
that's my preaching for the day.
And you're right. And I think that's part of my philosophy on sports lately. And I've done shows on this now, and I've said this now. It's we as fans have got to stop projecting what we want these guys to be if that's not what they are. Right. And we're going to get into Ben Simmons, and we want him to be a killer 3-point shooter. And that's not who he is. So we can either be cool with that because he's not going to change, or he can go somewhere else and be somebody else's. We're going to get into that. But, we want J.J. Arcega-Whiteside to be a second-round draft pick. We want Dillard to be the first-round draft pick. We want Jalen Hurts to be the number. We want these things. But if that's not what they are, is it their fault that they were drafted in the first and second round? Or is it a bad choice by the people who did the drafting?
Absolutely.
If they weren't first and second round talent.
You and I were essentially talking about this on my podcast show this past week.
Were.
And I thank you for coming on the show to talk about
it was so
Eagles
much fun.
coaches. Yeah, the Eagles coaches. And what an important and critical time this is, not just for them, but for the players too, because of how these relationships are going to manifest and develop with each other. And we just don't know. Nick Sirianni is one of 32 guys. There's only 32 jobs in the world like he has.
Correct.
And he is lucky enough to have that job. Does that mean that he is going to be a fantastic, wonderful coach? Absolutely not. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals. We know what their coaching staff has been over how many years. So that being said, like, I think we can't set ourselves up for failure. And I think we got to keep an open mind in a lot of different ways.
Jason, by the way, approves. Jason approves of everything you're saying.
Jason, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It is interesting. And you look at this Phillies team and you just go across the diamond. You want Alec Boehm to be a great third baseman.
Yes.
He's not.
Right.
He's not.
At this moment, he's not. And might he need something else to get him to the next level?
Yes.
That's for the coaches to figure out. And if they're good enough coaches to do that, then that's great. But if it doesn't happen, or if it doesn't happen in Philadelphia, maybe it'll happen somewhere else for him. So, yeah, exactly. But he's not a great third baseman at this point in time, and he probably won't be in the foreseeable future.
Right. But remember, we won a World Series with pulling Pat Burrell as a defensive replacement in the seventh inning for a whole season.
That's right.
So, like, you look at getting like a guy like Freddie Galvis, who is a great defensive infielder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that you kind of lean towards. I mean, the similarities, and I know that's exploding in the comment section right now, and I know Jimmy Rollins said it. The similarities between the 2017 and this team are starting to add up.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
It's exciting. It's striking. And again, it comes back, Chip. It comes back to that spark. It comes back to the spark. It's so important in sports, and it may sound ridiculous or it may sound cliche, but if you don't have that spark, and that's what makes sports exciting anyway. It's what makes us wanting to watch these games. How many freaking stinkers did we watch of this Phillies team throughout this season? But now they've made it exciting for us. They've made it exciting for us by giving us that spark. And I can't wait to see what is going to happen here. Again, not 100% thinking that it's gonna be great, but that's my hope. It's my hope.
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
Because I do want to put some realism up in here. We are right now 2 games ahead of the Braves in the NL East, as the wife brings me another beverage. Hello, the wife.
Hi.
Again, I know I married up, guys. Thanks for popping in. Cheers.
Didn't we all?
100%.
I certainly did too.
So let me ask you this, because I want to put some realism up in here.
Yeah.
We're 2 games up. It's August 9th. If for some reason things go sour and they don't make the playoffs, does Girardi get the axe?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I really don't. I that's my gut instinct right now at this point, not being an insider, just as somebody who follows these teams and talks to reporters and things like that. I don't think Joe Girardi is in jeopardy of losing his job. I don't think he has that persona that Gabe Kapler had that I think was in conflict with what the front office was, where the front office wanted to go, and also where essentially the fan base wanted that manager to go and who that manager wanted to be to an extent. I think Joe Girardi has more of a track record and respect in Major League Baseball that is going to keep him here a little bit longer. And I also, believe that, listen, like we were saying earlier, we have to give him some credit for this. And this is going to go a long way. Even if they crap the bed somehow, depends on how they crap the bed. However, I still think that he's going to be safe this coming season. I do. And I think he's going to be safe too, because I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on this team to go over the luxury tax, and they just better do it. Because I'm a fan. I don't care about their money. It's their money. It's not my money. Go over the luxury tax. I want the playoffs. I've been waiting
Buy me a
way
winner.
too long. Exactly.
Buy me a winner.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
I look at this team, and again, we're only a week into this absolute tear.
Right. Feels like an eternity.
A week ago, I would have told you that Joe Girardi deserved to get fired. He was mismanaging games. He had people in the wrong spots. He was forcing issues. He was forcing players in, and it was the wrong decision. Now we're a week into this, and he looks like a genius. Now, there's still a lot of mistakes, in my opinion, of where to put some of the bullpen guys. Like, you don't need to pitch our closer in non-closed situations so that he's not available in a closed situation.
Yeah.
Against it. I think that he still has a couple things going wrong. But a week ago, I was on the, you know what, if they don't make the playoffs, Girardi needs to go. I still feel that if at this point they don't make the playoffs, because they have now shown that they do have the pieces in place in a weaker NL East, I think that you have to have that conversation. But you make a really good point of he's got too much street cred in this league.
Yeah. Well, and another thing too, we got to go back. This might be the theme of this podcast, quite frankly, but that spark. It doesn't mean it's just for the players. It doesn't mean it's just for the players. It's a spark for the coaches. It's a spark for the front offices too. That spark can lead in so many different directions. Again, it's a spark. That light that flashes from that spark can go in a lot of different directions, Chip. So I think that Joe Girardi may have a bit of that as well, as hokey as it may sound. No, he may be making better decisions because of that spark this team has.
You're right. And finally, some of these players listening to him.
Yeah.
Right. Because when we had Gabe talking to Rhys Hoskins about launch angle and screwing up his swing for multiple seasons, all of a sudden, Rhys is just going out and raking.
Yeah.
And it's helping him. He's hitting well. Bryce Harper's going back to that, screw it. I'm going to run 600 miles an hour mentality. I'm going to hit the ball as far as you're starting to see this team gel. Now, is Gabe Kapler still out in San Francisco going to win, manager of the year? Probably.
Right. Good for him.
He just couldn't do it here.
Right.
He couldn't do it here.
Right. And I think everybody needs to calm down a little bit when it comes to the why couldn't he do it here and he's doing it out there. Folks, there's different talent on the team, for God's sake.
Yes.
It's a different atmosphere. It's a different environment. Every team is different in sports. Of course, it could happen somewhere else. For God's sake, Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl here. What the heck? Again, go back to that spark. We needed the spark in the playoffs. We needed the spark for the Eagles to win that Super Bowl.
Yes, Adam, we know that Gabe Kapler's got 70 wins.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that's a fantastic transition because you mentioned the Eagles.
Yeah.
I know you were there last night.
Yes.
What is your takeaway? What are your thoughts? How are you feeling? Talk to me about some birds.
I am absolutely 100% impressed with a certain gentleman on offense who catches a ball and is developing into quite a nice wide receiver. And I think he's the talk of a lot on Eagles Twitter and elsewhere. And that is one Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins has been the best wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles in camp thus far. He just has. There's absolutely no denying it. We saw it last night. He made the catch of the night. Jalen Hurts throws it about 50 yards. Yep. And right over safety Anthony Harris, and Quez comes down with it.
Who's a good safety?
He's pretty good safety.
Very good safety.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I think that Quez Watkins could be one of those type of guys where you look at the draft pick, you look where he was picked, and where he's in his sophomore year, and you're saying, this is a guy who can develop, because inevitably, and we're seeing this with another gentleman on offense who I'll get to in a second, he can be coached. And we were talking about it on my show last week. So many of these players can show speed, the 3-cone drill. They can excel at it, whether it's the 40, whether it's whatever combine type of exercise they're doing. They can be fantastic at it. But if they can't be coached, then they're not going to make it very far in the NFL. If they're not able to create great relationships with their coaches to be able to be coached, they're not going to get too far in this league, Chip.
Right.
And I see Quez Watkins as a guy who has certainly made his share of contested catches. We haven't had this from this team in a very, very long time. We were hoping that John Hightower would kind of come around, not really necessarily seeing it from him. But, man, Quez Watkins is the story. We talked about Jordan Mailata before, another guy who can obviously be coached. The guy wasn't playing football 5 years ago.
He's been coached.
Yeah, by the best of the business, Jeff Stoutland.
No question. Yep.
So I look at this team again. We talked about it. It's a developmental year, and that's what we have to look at this as. But man, Quez Watkins so far on offense, he and Jordan Mailata are the absolute stars in this camp in terms of the Eagles' developmental prospects. And I loved watching these guys last night.
Well, and I think the one thing that I know we've talked about, I know you've talked about it, but when you look at one of the biggest knocks on Doug Peterson, it was that he never developed players. And you can go, and it wasn't just the COVID shutdown season situation. Right. You look at a player that we do not mention on this network anymore, and the regression from when he left North Dakota State to when he left Philadelphia was extreme. He went from a quarterback, okay to be drafted where he was, to being potentially not an NFL caliber quarterback. And I put a lot of that on Doug Peterson, not because it's Doug Peterson's fault that guy got injured or that, he had the yips and he got hit. That's not the problem. It's that as a former quarterback, that's supposed to be your bread and butter. Why are you seeing these wide receivers balling out this year? Because Nick Sirianni played the position. Nick Sirianni knows the intricate little details that you need to, and he's holding these guys accountable. When Jalen Reagor didn't do his job, he pulled Reagor aside and said, you need to get your shit together.
Right.
The accountability, the minute coaching. He's like, look, we're going to coach the big things and we're going to keep it simple, but we're also going to make sure that you do these things right.
Right.
Because mediocrity is not what we're going for here. And I think that's where Quez Watkins is getting a lot of development. Remember, these rookies did not have a rookie camp last year. They did not have training camp, and they weren't supposed to be starters.
Right. Yep.
Deshaun Jackson was supposed to be your starter. Alshon Jeffrey was supposed to be your starter. Hell, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was supposed to be your starter. These guys were not supposed to play.
Exactly.
Because of injuries and because of bad development, they were thrown into roles they weren't ready for with a quarterback who was not capable of throwing the ball.
I think what's interesting is when you listen to Travis Fulgham this past week, Chip, and you talk. Him too. I really believe he was answering honestly the reporter's question about last year with Alshon coming back, and that was really kind of what threw a wrench into his year. After having those 4 fantastic weeks. The guy had 4 fantastic weeks in the NFL. It means there's some talent there.
You got to go with a hot hand.
Yeah, and you've got, just because a guy has a contract, yes, he was older and helped win them the Super Bowl and Alshon Jeffrey, doesn't mean you necessarily stay with them. And I'm hoping that with this new coaching regime change, that we're going to see that change in philosophy. And I think we might be already. We might be already where, you know what, we're not just going to stick to the guys that do have the big contracts, because if they're not performing, they shouldn't be on the field. I don't want to see that anymore. I want young talent, like you're saying, Chip, to be developed. This absolutely needs to happen for this team. It's been way, way too long to depend on free agents year after year to come in and, quote, make the difference to get them to the next level. It can't continue to happen.
You wonder why the Washington football team for the longest time struggled. It's because Dan Snyder gave them the best team money could buy, but there was no gelling. There was no buying into the system. So this idea that you can plug in free agents, it doesn't work. Right. Now, with that being said, you look at a team like Tampa Bay and you plug in a Tom Brady and the players, there's no arguing with the fact that Tom Brady is going to get you to a Super Bowl.
Right.
So you buy into the system. They had
Jameis Winston.
Rebuilding team. Yeah.
They had Jameis Winston. They knew who he was. They go into free agency and say, okay, it sucks that it's the quarterback position, but it is a hole that we need to fill. That's what free agency is for. The NFL draft is for developing players for the future. And when you're the Philadelphia Eagles and have 5 draft picks throughout a draft, that's not acceptable at all in terms of developing talent.
And when you have 5 draft picks and you consistently miss on your second round pick.
And first round pick too, to be honest.
Well, first round, we know. Like, we know the jury's still out on Reagor, but we know that Dillard was a bad pick.
Right.
Because he showed it without the pads on. He showed it from the right tackle spot. He showed it. He is an undersized, not strong. And I think I said this on your podcast. I know I said this on my podcast. The longer that Andre Dillard gets reps on a football field, the more his trade value lowers. Because right now,
we talked about it last week.
Say he is a former first-round draft pick. You can still say that he is a former first-round draft pick. So you can trade him because he's a former first-round draft pick. But the longer he goes on the field, losing to a guy like Jordan Mailata, who is not a first-round draft pick, is Jordan Mailata just that good, or is Andre Dillard just that bad?
Yeah, there's a lot of mental things I think that are probably going on with Dillard. A change in scenery would probably be good for him. But it begs the question too that he still is here on this team. They couldn't have found a trade partner during the offseason. What about Zach Ertz? Again, I'm tired of talking about Zach Ertz. I mean, it's getting old and old.
Zach Ertz will be a Philadelphia Eagle this season.
Yeah, it's getting done. It's like what I wish I could get into the front office mind. I wish I could get into Howie Roseman's mind, or even Jeffrey Lurie for that matter, to understand the rationale as to why they haven't made some of the moves that they have, when, yes, to us casual sports fans and casual sports followers of the team, we're not casual, we're more rabid, but still, a little bit. But that we can see what this is. And perhaps there's some other business acumen that I don't necessarily understand, but it seems rather logical, like you said, Chip, that this guy, day after day, week after week, in Andre Dillard, his stock is going down in terms of his trade value. I don't get it. I wish I understood.
Right. Look, I want him to do well, because then at least you have a legitimate battle. But at this point, you got to throw in the towel. Yeah. At this point, this is over. You need to start getting your 5 guys. Great burgers. You need to get your 5 guys along the offensive line to start building some cohesion together, because there was so much broken apart last year. Yeah. They need to look, Andre Dillard's going to play on Thursday night. Yeah. Yeah. It better be with the 2s. Right. It better be with the 2s.
I have a feeling it probably will. But really quick, moving on. I want to ask you about this too, because something that is always important to me when I watch football, and have for a very, very long time now, is special teams. And
let's go.
Watching the return guys last night, the uninspiring way at which Jalen Reagor, Boston Scott, and Greg Ward are back there returning punts, it didn't instill confidence in me. And I have to say, it's one of the disappointing aspects of the developmental year that we are going to be witnessing. And already I'm kind of feeling that, because listen, as boring as the punt team is, guess what? That means field position. And that's really important for this team that did a terrible job in terms of where its field position was last year. And quite frankly, the year before too. I'm concerned about special teams. I am. I think the punter is okay. I mean, I'm just concerned about special teams, especially the return game.
So here's what kills me. And I am a huge special teams guy. I miss the days when there was a Pro Bowl spot for an excellent special teamer, which Ike Reese got to the Pro Bowl multiple times because how excellent he was. Shout out Ike Reese.
Yes.
We have a mediocre kicker. Our long snapper, he can do the job.
Yeah.
Nobody knew the punter because they got rid of the guy that we actually liked. What kills me is putting guys back as return guys who are way too valuable to this team. So Jalen Reagor has no business being a punt returner or a kick returner. Yes, he is fast. Yes, he is exciting, but he has no business unless it's like in a Deshaun Jackson type situation where you need him to get the ball and go.
Right.
You got to hope that he makes the play. Boston Scott isn't good enough. Greg Ward Jr. isn't good enough. We have seen this. I am over these 2 guys. They are holdovers from the last team. They will both make the team because, you need to put 53 guys in uniform, and they're kind of guys that just hang around. They're the Michael Scotts of this team, if you will. But neither of these guys deserve to be here. They are okay. You got to put a guy like a Quez Watkins back there. You got to put a guy like a John Hightower back there. Somebody who is exceptionally fast, can read the open field, who can get open. But if you were to lose him to an injury, it doesn't cripple your team.
Right. listen, the jury's still out on Jalen Hurts, of course, and whether or not he's going to be able to get the ball down the field. And in the end, that's what matters in terms of the punt game. If you can get the ball down the field, then you're going to have better field position. But I just don't know if that's going to happen. None of us does. We're hoping that that he's going to develop throughout this year. But the way things are right now, I think that because of where the offense could be, which is probably an average type of offense this year at best, then how that translates over to your special teams. And I'm just absolutely baffled that Howie and the front office have not addressed this position in quite some time because it hasn't been good enough.
But you look at the whole NFL.
Yeah.
And outside of the kicker, who you do need to be able to kick 55 to 60-yard field goals consistently, and there's only a handful of guys that can do that, special teams isn't the way it used to be. No punters are going out there and doing coffin corner kicks.
Right.
They're not pinning them between the half-inch yard line. They're kicking it and hoping it takes a high bounce and hoping that the special team guys get down there and tap it out of the end zone.
Exactly.
They're not trying to pin it in the corner. It is not a skill position.
Right. It's
which upsets me.
I wish it was. I wish we could get back to the days when it was. Interesting question from Adam. Will Watkins be a starter at the beginning of the season? And I don't think he's going to be a starter. Could he be? I think so. If he continues to play like this in camp, Chip, right. I think they would be hard pressed not to make him a starter if he continues this. Let's see what happens in these preseason games. First preseason game is on Thursday. That's when the rubber's really going to meet the road. And I could it happen, Adam? Absolutely. I think it could. Probably not, though. I think we are going to see Devontae Smith, of course. I do believe Travis Fulgham is going to be out there. And I mean, could he be in the slot? Could Greg Ward be not out of here, but perhaps the fourth or fifth receiver, perhaps?
Why is Greg Ward still a thing? Why is this still a thing? You have, like you just said,
he has hands.
Devontae Smith is a number one. Is a number one draft pick. He's your number one receiver because he has to be.
Right.
Fulgham, show that he has some skills. Get him out there. Rager, he was a first round draft pick. You have to see if he's worthy of, again, was he drafted too high or can he actually be that?
Right.
Watkins, I think if you're going out there and you've said competition, everyone's going to earn their spots, and then to sit Watkins, you're kind of going against what you're saying, because you can't tell me that Quez Watkins got outperformed by Greg Ward Jr., J.J. Arcega-Whiteside,
true,
John Hightower. You can't tell me that.
That's very true. Yeah, that's very. I say Quez Watkins has been the best wide receiver in camp.
There you go.
Bottom line, man. Oh, I tell you, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait for this first preseason game. I really can't. I'm like itching for it.
I'm excited. It's because, it's been a long offseason. We were primarily a Philadelphia Eagles-based podcast.
Right.
So it's been a long offseason of talking about a dog crap team. And it's been drama with a quarterback and drama with a coach. And we're trying to fire Howie. And then he has a really good offseason and a good draft. And we got the guy we want. And then this coach comes in and he's buying into the system and he's wearing the fun t-shirts and he's yelling at the players and everyone's buying him. And then, Josh Sweat is beating out Derek Barnett. Mailata is beating out Dillard. Kelsey's still kicking ass. This team, just like the Phillies, is sucking us in again. And we know that they're not going to be a great team.
Yes. Hope.
But we're like,
hope. That's what we have. That's what we always have.
Will they be a good team?
Exactly.
Will they be a good?
I think when you look at the Eagles schedule, you look at what has taken shape with all the teams that they're actually going to be playing. That hope that we have is probably going to be short-lived, especially right out of the gate. They have some very, very tough games. And folks, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
It will be.
As Chip and I have been saying, it is a developmental year. That's what we want to see. I know on my podcast show, when we do our Eagles post-game shows, that's going to be the theme this year. It's not just going to be, let's read over the stats. Who is actually developing in this game? And you know what? If it is the long snapper, if it's Lovato that's actually developing, that's great. We're going to talk about it because it's important.
Yes, we are.
So that expectations, we got to temper them. I know we're excited, but we got to temper them a little bit.
Let me throw a name at you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on former quarterback turned tight end Tyree Jackson?
Tyree Jackson?
I've heard some good things, but again, he's a guy who changes positions because he's like, I want to stay in the NFL,
right?
The same way a certain, Jordan Matthews did, the
right.
same way a certain Tim Tebow did.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's gonna be a complete flop or anything like that. But usually, you don't necessarily say. But look, Greg Ward, for God's sake, he was a quarterback in college, but he has seen some level of success. Can Jackson have that level of success? Yes, he can. He can have a level of success, but is he going to be like a real difference maker or anything like that? I don't think so. I really don't.
Well, I mean, I even look at the whole, will he make this team logic? So we know that Sirianni coming from Indianapolis, we haven't seen anything with the offense yet, so you have to assume it's going to be a lot of the two tight end sets.
Right.
So following down the rabbit hole, that Goddard is the number 1 tight end. As of right now, Zach Ertz is the number 2. Richard Rodgers is the number 3.
Yeah.
If for some reason Zach Ertz does get traded, and I truly do not believe it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. I feel that's the only way that Tyree Jackson makes this team.
Probably. I could say maybe on the practice squad. I don't know. Maybe on the practice squad, but he look, there are a lot of guys that come through the NFL, Chip, as we know. They have a really good story. They have a really good story, and that's what makes watching some of these guys exciting. But I just don't know if he's going to be able to be that difference maker in the end. And when we talked about this offseason with the Eagles, what they did, how he actually having a pretty damn good offseason.
He did. He had a good offseason.
I mean, the first pick in the draft, I wanted a playmaker. And guess what? He did it. He actually drafted a playmaker for this team. So, are we going to get that from Ty Jackson? I don't think so. I don't think he's like that playmaker. Could he be? Maybe he surprised me.
But again, and I think this is big, and you've mentioned it, I mentioned it. I think the way this season is supposed to go, you have to basically look at it and go, who develops?
Right.
Cool. If Tyree Jackson develops and he turns into a guy, then you got a guy.
Right.
If he doesn't, okay, it's not a big deal. We got him for nothing.
Exactly.
He turned into a tight end. He worked I just think that you have to look at this team as a whole. And again, there's only 3 preseason games, so it's going to be rapid fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be rapid fire. That 4th preseason game doesn't mean anything anyway.
Right, exactly. It's still going to be fun to watch. Still, because I'm a nerd when it comes to football. But there are guys on this team that we are expecting to take that next step that we need to see develop too. And I'm talking about guys like Dallas Goedert. We want to see Dallas Goedert develop.
He's got to. Got to.
It has to happen. I want to see somebody develop continuously like Josh Sweat, who we were talking about. How about somebody on the defensive line like Hassan Ridgeway? I think that gentleman has an extreme amount of talent in that body. It's just how he's going to use those hands and how he's going to bull rush, basically. And I want to be able to every single week after a game say, you know what, I saw this development from this guy, this development. It's not always about the stat sheet, and it's about the cohesion too. We got to keep that in mind.
And it's so big. And look, when you look at when Zach Ertz came into the league, it was on the tail end of Brent Selleck heading out. And there was a nice little swapping of roles where Brent Selleck dropped down to the tight end 2.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz pops up to the tight end 1. We're at that point with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz has to transition to tight end 2. Dallas Goedert has to transition to tight end 1. It has to happen.
Absolutely. And we have to see Dallas Goedert run some better routes. We have to see some better blocking from him too. And if we do,
we got to see him stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy.
Exactly. Oh man, it's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Speaking of staying healthy, our last topic this fine evening.
Yes. Little sigh here.
Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is on the outs with the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's talk some rumors, shall we? There are rumors that he is not taking phone calls from anybody, including his teammate Joel Embiid. There are rumors that he is not listening to anybody. There are rumors. And then what ends up happening? Why? There comes the annual video of, here it comes, ladies and gentlemen, Ben Simmons shooting 3-pointers. And I was going to leave this going for a couple seconds because we all know that Ben Simmons likes to shoot 3-pointers. Look at it. Look at him go. Oh, my God. It's so pretty.
Look at that launch.
Well, that's Rajon Rondo, who also doesn't shoot 3-pointers.
Right. Right. Look, Chip, this is what's happening here, okay? Ben Simmons, for all the criticism that we can give him about the type of basketball player he either has or has not developed into, for all that criticism, I think deep down we all know, and we need to know, that he is a business guy. He has a brand to himself. And like a lot of different NBA players have that certain brand that is going to propel them in life to whatever they want to do next. This is not his final destination. Nope. Whether it's a 70, I'm not even talking to 76ers. I'm talking about the NBA. It is not his final destination. He is thinking about the future in terms of what his brand means to him and his life. Good for him. But from a sports basketball Philadelphia 76ers standpoint, I go back to what happened this past offseason, of course, and it started before the offseason with the Eagles and the gentleman that you don't want to reference here on the show. And it's all about broken relationships and what has happened with those broken relationships and how they started and how the seeds were sown and how everything just kind of grew from there. That's what has happened with Ben Simmons. Yeah. I think that he truly dislikes this fan base and many elements of the fan base. I'm not going to sit here and say that I either blame him or don't blame him for that. But I think what's disappointing is the lack of accountability that we have actually seen from him. That's the disappointing part. I understand the brand of who he is. I understand what he wants to do probably in his life with that brand, and he should be able to do that. I'm not going to criticize him for that. No. But a certain level of accountability when he's using social media, he's using Instagram to get his messages out to the masses, and there really isn't any accountability based on where the expectations were, not just for this team, but where even he had the expectations for himself and his teammates. And for him not to be accountable for that based on the way it all ended, I think that's where the overall disappointment for the fan base comes in.
So my thing is, and we have now seen this with multiple athletes in Philadelphia over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
We have always said that playing in Philadelphia is difficult. It takes a certain kind of person. It takes a mentality like a Jalen Hurts going, I'm going to get 1% better every day, and then actually doing it. It takes a Jordan Mailata being the first guy down the field, picking somebody up. It takes a Reese Hoskins getting excited when Bryce Harper smacks one over the fence. It takes that mentality. We have seen multiple athletes over the last year and a half take their talents elsewhere because it's not who they are.
Right.
Starting with a former quarterback, it's not who he was.
Right.
Continuing with a guy like Spencer Howard. Yes, he got traded, but he was excited to be in Texas and out of Philadelphia. You heard it in the press conferences. And then what happens, his first start, pulled after the third inning because he's Spencer Howard.
Right.
That's what you're going to now see with Ben Simmons. You know, as Don says, I think he doesn't like being held accountable. The brand is more important than his game. And that's what you just said. So on the draft night, on the NBA draft night, they showed an old interview with Kobe Bryant talking about a young Ben Simmons. And I am pulling up right now a quote from that interview. This is Kobe Bryant talking about Ben Simmons. He's got to get a jump shot. This was back in 2019. It sounds stupid and all, but that I'm dead ass serious because if not, he will regret it when his career is over.
Kobe knew.
Kobe knew.
Kobe was a wise man.
And then they continued saying, Oh, so is it the kind of thing where he's got to get into the gym by, 5 a.m., 5:30? And he jokingly, he goes, 2:30. 2:30. He's got a lot of work to do. So you've got one of the greatest to ever play the game calling you out on it. You have an entire fan base calling you out on it. You've got a guy like Doc Rivers. You've got a elite teammate and a guy like Joel Embiid calling you out on it, calling you out on it, calling you out on it. So you in reality have two choices. You can get better and go, you know what? I do need a goddamn jump shot. Or you go, I've already made millions. I've already dated a Kardashian. I'm already getting presents from LeBron. Why would I need a jump shot?
Exactly.
And more importantly, why do I need to take it during the game? Because you watch that video and he's got a nice little form on his jump shot, but he refuses to take it.
To take any shot.
To take any shot. It went from will he take a three-pointer today to will he shoot the ball today?
Yeah.
And we found out the answer was no.
And it is all encompassing with his game. We can talk about the free throw shooting as well. And listen, he was before the All-Star break, it was 64%, I think might have been the number, where that's not a great stat at all.
His regular season numbers.
64%. Right after the All-Star break, it went down to like 42, 41%, somewhere around there, free throw shooting. And we know what happened throughout the playoffs. It was in the low 30s. That's mental right there. That's the mental component of the game. And quite frankly, if you're going to play ball, whatever ball, or you're going to play hockey in the city, it doesn't matter. There has to be some sort of mental toughness. And I know, especially players who are drafted here, they don't choose to come here. It's either Howie Roseman or Daryl Morey or whoever.
But he signed a max contract.
He did.
But
he did. Exactly.
He chose a max contract. So now, like Don's saying, that's why he wants to do the words, because he'll never have to take a shot on that squad.
Right.
Correct.
That's absolutely correct.
What do you do? Because the Sixers' big acquisition was who this offseason? Andre Drummond.
Right.
To fill in, for the Dwight Howard minutes. So we know that Joel Embiid is going to miss time. You cannot, and I will say this now in August, you cannot put a lineup on the court that has both Ben Simmons and Andre Drummond on it, because you are playing 3-on-5 offense the entire time.
God, what a disaster that was. What a disaster.
You can't do it. Andre Drummond does not shoot the ball.
Drummond. Sorry. That was a great
mistake. He doesn't.
Yes.
He doesn't shoot the ball.
And his free throw shooting is awful too.
You cannot put those two guys on the court at the same time. It is 3-on-5 basketball.
I don't think it's going to happen. I do think Ben Simmons is going to be traded from this team. I do. I have enough trust in Daryl Morey based on his track record, not just in Philadelphia, but when he was with other organizations as well. He understands this game. He has solid relationships throughout the NBA.
I really believe
that Ben Simmons is not going to be on the Philadelphia 70s. I cannot imagine Ben Simmons coming into 76ers camp with the way that things are now.
How can it?
It can't happen. It can't happen, Chip. Can't.
And so here's my solution, because look, we know they're not just going to give him away for peanuts the same way they haven't given Ertz away for peanuts. You can't give away some of these guys for peanuts. So the only way it happens is if Doc Rivers gets the opportunity to say, okay, I saw the videos. I know you worked on your jump shot. Here's what's going to happen. You are required to shoot 10 jump shots per night.
Oh, man.
Any night that you don't, you will not start the next game.
Oh, man.
And when you do check into the game, you're still required to shoot 10 jump shots the next night, or you won't start the next game.
Man, they might not beat the Cavs with that strategy. No, I'm
fine with it. I'm fine with it, because at least you're saying to your max contract player, enough is enough of the mediocrity. It's now time to get better.
I think that's why they got to move on from him, because they understand
I agree.
They understand the mediocrity's here. It's not going anywhere. What is important to him, as we were talking about before, they know what that is right now. It's not important for him to develop that jump shot. It's not important for him to take a layup when there's nobody around him.
Oh my God.
I mean, when Joel Embiid is on the court, essentially wanting some accountability from his guy that he's been with now for some time, and Ben Simmons just won't provide that accountability. That's where I can't imagine those text messages or the phone conversations that they had when Joel Embiid, who I do believe is a very true a true leader in that locker room. When he was so visibly frustrated during the game on the court, I cannot imagine that the conversation with Ben Simmons was fantastic by any stretch.
And then the post game right away where he goes, I thought he was going to take the shot.
Exactly. Like we all did.
Didn't.
Like we all did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Don floats this out. What about a 3-team deal? Ben goes to Golden State, Lillard to Philly, and the Blazers get young players and picks. I do not want to trade Maxey or Thibault for any reason.
Right.
If you pull those
Thibault. Definitely.
Thibault. So I said this during the playoffs, and I got some shit for it. But what I said is, I'm like, right now, you have 2 legitimate defensive player of the year candidates. If I only got to keep one, I'm picking Thibault.
Absolutely.
Because you know what he is. You know he's coachable. You know that he's willing to improve his offense. And you saw it happen over the course of the year. Ben Simmons was a guy who was a stud in high school. He was a stud in international play. He was okay at LSU. And he's a really good regular season player.
Yeah.
But besides that, he has now turtle shelled up multiple times in the playoffs. We know what he is. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and not changing what you do.
Right, exactly. Do I think it's possible Lillard comes to Philadelphia? I do. I don't know if it's going to be that trade in particular, like we just saw. I don't know if it's going to be that. But I think I mentioned this the last time I was on with you guys, where we see year after year that there are certain players in the NBA where the shoe kind of just drops and they say, I want out of this town. I want out of this city. Right. Daryl Morey may be playing that card. It certainly is a gamble for him to be doing that. But I think that now with Lillard where he's at, I think it's possible the Sixers are going to possibly get him. I do. I really do think it's possible.
Look, it's Dame time up in here. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's getting to be that time. And I think we're probably going to hear something within the next couple of weeks. I really do. But I think there's still, Daryl Morey's still saying, hey, there's still some players out there who could potentially want out of their cities. Let's wait a little bit here. So I think that might be part of the issue as well.
And you look at the free agent deals that were signed. TJ McConnell is not worth the money that he signed for. Alex Caruso is not worth the money that he's signed for.
Right.
So right now, the market is inflated.
Right.
We know that.
It makes a lot of these teams, 4th or 5th seeds, perhaps next year. You know what I mean? With some of these signings.
Right.
Yeah.
But the Sixers, so I judge an offseason very simply. I look at a team how they finished, and I go, did this team get better or worse based on the moves that they made? So right now, the Sixers have gotten worse. Dwight Howard is better than Andre Drummond.
Yes.
They have the same starting 5, which you saw regress over the course of the season and regress in the playoffs. So right now, they drafted a nice kid. He fine. They re-signed Furkan. Cool. But
which I didn't think was going to happen. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen. I didn't think Furkan was coming back.
And that's a good move. But they didn't get any. They didn't get any needle movers. They didn't get a point guard that can score. You can't tell me that Maxey is going to get starters minutes with the 5 that they have right now.
Right. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the offseason's done, Chip. I don't think it's done, man. I think we I think Daryl Morey's got some things up his sleeve, and I really think that he's setting the stage for this Ben Simmons trade. And I think that once that does happen, that's going to be the wave that's going to bring whatever it is to this team. I mean, that's the linchpin here. It's Ben Simmons. What happens to him when he's out? And it's going to come. I do believe it's going to come.
I think, like we keep saying, I think it has to.
Yeah.
Because the hole that has been dug is drastic.
Right.
The fact that and again, they're just reports. Maybe they're not true, but they're just reports that he's ignoring everybody. Oh, well, we gave him his workout plan. Okay, but he's still talking to the same yes men. He's still working out with the same yes men that he always does.
Right.
He can't get better if people around him are telling him that he's getting excellent. He's already excellent.
Exactly.
He needs someone to kick his ass.
Exactly.
And he won't ever find that player.
He's gotten to the point where he's gotten to in his career, and I think whether or not he takes it to the next level, or even wants to take it to the next level, Chip, I don't know if that's going to happen with him in his career. I think something pretty special or monumental would have to happen in his life for him to say, "Hey, I'm going to put my brand on the back seat here and concentrate on my development as a player." I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either, because you know what? He wants to be in that LA lifestyle. And again, good for him.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work here unless you're a guy like a Joel Embiid, who is both Hollywood and an excellent player.
Right.
Unless you're a guy like an Allen Iverson, who's both Hollywood and an excellent player. But it's got to be both.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't get with just prima donnas.
Exactly. Especially when this 76ers team going through the process are this close. They're this freaking close. And there are certain reasons why it didn't happen this year. He was certainly one of them. He was certainly one of the reasons. So when you're that close and you got a guy that isn't necessarily wanting to be here, that's when things definitely go sour.
Well, on that happy note, we've done a full hour.
All right.
Do you have any final thoughts you want to share with the fine people who listened in tonight?
I think if there's anybody that's listening to this podcast here all the way through it, what we talked about tonight, I think, was the spark, and I brought it up. I think that's important for us to keep in mind moving forward as Philly sports fans, because when we get that spark with any of the teams we follow, Flyers, Sixers, Phillies, and especially the Philadelphia Eagles, you get that spark. A lot of special things can happen. It's a magical thing, and who knows if it's going to happen with the Eagles? Who knows if it's going to happen with the Phillies as they're on this streak right now? But man, let's just always be searching for that spark, man. That's my final thought, buddy.
I love it. So I'm so thankful, Jeff, that you joined us again. We were joined tonight by Jeff Warren from the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast. Plug your stuff, man. Talk about what you guys do, because you are the longest running Philadelphia sports podcast out there.
We absolutely are. We don't promote ourselves a whole lot out there, but we are on Twitter at Philadelphia PST. And you can follow me at Jeffrey_Warren as well. We also have a Patreon platform. It's ad-free, have a lot of great interviews. Chip was on our Patreon platform this past week. We were talking about the Eagles coaching staff. It was a good time for sure. And if you want some ad-free content, you can head on over there, patreon.com/Philadelphia PST. And if you want to check out some of the stuff we've been doing from a podcasting perspective, you can go to PhiladelphiaSportsTable.com. That's our website. We have all of our podcasts over there.
I love it. Apparently, and Adam just shared this, that Carter Hart, we normally try to talk about all four.
Yes.
But I missed this one. Carter Hart signed a 3-year extension today. Anyone who watches my show knows that I am a renewed Flyers fan. So I'm excited that Carter Hart signed his extension. I'm even more excited that they actually gave him some defensemen to, play in front of him.
Yes.
So it wasn't just shooting practice.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll say, Adam, in case you're interested, if you want to listen to the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast show this coming week, we've got Kelly Hinkle from BroadStreetHockey.com. She's going to be joining us this week to talk about Carter Hart, the signing, and also what's been happening with this team in the offseason. Chuck Fletcher's made some great moves. He's made some questionable moves as well. Great. Some questionable
I think they're
ones,
great. I love them. I love them. Because it's all about defense for me.
Yeah, and that's important. It's really important.
I'm excited as a Flyers fan that you brought in guys that are going to knock someone's head off and play defense in front of our franchise goalie.
Exactly. I'll be honest. I told somebody this today, actually, when I had lunch with a colleague of mine today. And I said, when the Ryan Ellis trade came down, I actually dry humped the air. I was so excited. I did. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So that being said, we got a lot of Flyers talk this week on the PST podcast show, everybody.
I love that. So listen, let me pay the bills and then we'll pop on out of here. So again, this has been Chips and Dish. We do this every single Monday night. I want to thank Jeff for popping on. We have a huge, huge week here on the All About the Birds Network. So we do Chips and Dish every Monday. Wednesday, we have a gigantic Eagles weekly report show. I will tell you about it tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. Thursday, we have Across the Pitch and an Eagles post-game show. It's preseason. We probably will only go about a half an hour, but it's happening. Friday is our Birds, Beers, and BS. We got all kinds of good stuff here on the All About the Birds Network. So make sure you're following, liking, subscribing, doing all of that good stuff. Statement Games, a fun free twist on fantasy sports. Link in the bio. They help us pay the bills. OddsJam.com. Use the Arbitrage Calculator to not lose money. Link in the bio. They help us pay the bills. AATBirds.com/shop. Those are our designs. Please support our podcast. We appreciate it. That helps pay the bills. 99jersey.com. Partner with AAT Birds. Use the code AATBirds20. Link in the bio for a 20% discount at checkout. And finally, your balls will thank you. Manscaped.com is partnered with AAT Birds. Use the code AATBirds for a 20% discount at checkout and free shipping. Make sure you watch all the way through because we are debuting, that's a fun English word, our new August Manscaped commercial, which I just recorded last night to my wife's absolute horror, because they send you the script. So here I am reading the script, and then I have to put together all of the video and all. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So make sure you check out the Manscaped commercial that I'll push play in a second. I have been Chip at Chip for the Birds. He has been Jeff at Jeffrey_Warren from Philadelphia PST, the Philadelphia Sports Podcast. My friend, I appreciate you. I thank you for coming on tonight.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me, buddy.
And as we end every show here on the All About the Birds Network, we say a very happy and excited, go Birds. And of course, we're out of beer, so we're out of here.
Go Birds.
See you guys. Go Birds. Attention, listeners across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston. Do we have a pube problem? If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation and brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with the Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds. Ready for an out-of-world experience, fellas? Look no further than the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped that has just taken off in not only the USA, but Canada, the UK, across Europe, Australia, South Africa, and Singapore. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your whole solar system. First, scheduled for liftoff, new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. This spaceship is here to guide you on a journey to trim your body, balls, butt, and even Uranus. This 4th generation trimmer also features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch, can engage a travel lock, and is even waterproof. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 4000K LED spotlight you can turn on and off when needed for a more precise shave throughout your travels across the universe. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker. It's like having a little astronaut to chop your worst weeds up top in your nose and ear. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Don't forget to use Crop Preserver ball deodorant and their Crop Reviver to help your little planets be on their A-game while feeling the sun's heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0. the Manscaped Boxers, and the Shed Travel Bag. Abort hairy balls and Buzz Lightyear that Woody with Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. For a clean trinity and beyond, your Spaceballs will thank you.